Hey, greetings everybody. Keith here. Hoping everybody's having a good day, enjoying life, living life, loving life. We're coming at you today to talk about statelessness. Statelessness. What is statelessness? And what happens if you are stateless? So let's take a look. First of all, I want to thank everybody for joining me. Please be sure to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. There's a couple PayPal links down in the details section for anybody that wants to share some love. And we have, this is an article from Lexology. Horzio, Bromberg, and Newman PC. Okay, and they say, as of September 26, 2014, as it relates to all the nationality and everything, says if you are like me, you just can't read enough decisions about diversity jurisdiction. Okay, hopefully you are not like me in that regard. But you might still find a recent decision from the Third Circuit interesting. In it, the Third Circuit discussed what it means to be a stateless person for the purposes of diversity jurisdiction, the so-called stateless doctrine, and ultimately questioned the rationale behind the entire concept. In Frederick v. Davis, plaintiff and defendant, both American citizens, were passengers on a flight from Philadelphia to Germany. While plaintiff was standing in line for the bathroom, she claims that defendant fell on her and broke her arm. Plaintiff sued in federal court, claiming diversity jurisdiction, and defendant moved to dismiss for lack of subject matter jurisdiction. The defendant argued that although he was a citizen of Pennsylvania, he was domiciled in Germany and therefore was stateless for purposes of diversity jurisdiction and thus could be sued under the diversity jurisdiction statute. The district court granted the motion and the Third Circuit affirmed. It says plaintiff sued in federal court claiming diversity jurisdiction, and defendant moved to dismiss for lack of subject matter jurisdiction. The defendant's argument was that he was a citizen of Pennsylvania but domiciled in Germany. And thus could be sued under the diversity jurisdiction statute. Under the diversity jurisdiction statute, district courts have jurisdiction over matters between citizens of different states, citizens of a state and citizens of a foreign state, citizens of different states in which citizens of foreign state are additional parties, and a foreign state as plaintiff, and citizens of a state or different states. But as the Frederick Court observed, for purposes of diversity jurisdiction, courts have explained that citizenship is synonymous with domicile, and domicile is the true, fixed, and permanent home and place of habitation. It is the place to which, whenever he is absent, he has the intention of returning. Under this rationale, Supreme Court has held that citizenship for diversity purposes requires that an individual be both a citizen of the United States and domiciled within the state. Under this rationale, the Supreme Court has held that citizenship for diversity purposes requires that an individual be both a citizen of the United States and domiciled within a state. If the individual is a U.S. citizen but domiciled in a foreign state, that person is considered stateless, and a federal court cannot obtain jurisdiction over the person under diversity of jurisdiction statute. So, what we're talking about here is if you're born in the United States, but you're a resident of one of the states, you don't have any claim in a federal court. You have a hard time getting it to federal court unless you can figure out how to use that diversity of jurisdiction or diversity of citizenship. And that's what it's about. The diversity of citizenship is using that duality. And if you have that duality, it's kind of like what do they call it? Dispatriation. If you were born in the United States, which I'm not going to say you are because it's an impossibility, but if you're a citizen of the United States and then you move out of the United States into one of the states and become domiciled there, they're telling you you're stateless. That's what I've been telling people all along about that dual citizenship. It's showing that you're the one that's confused. In Frederick, the district court concluded that defendant was an American citizen domiciled in Germany and was therefore stateless, and therefore couldn't obtain jurisdiction. Among other things, the district court relied on the fact that defendant has continuously resided in Germany since 1996, sold his home in Pennsylvania, and currently owns no property in the state. Let me get back to the reading here so you guys can see here. My apologies. And currently owns no property in the state, purchased a home in Germany, owns and operates a business that caters exclusively to German customers, holds a German driver's license, pays taxes in Germany, and has held a German residency permit since 2003. The Third Circuit affirmed this decision but found the conclusion troubling because it closes the doors to the federal court to a citizen of a state who wishes to sue another citizen based on diversity. The Third Circuit further observed that the stateless person doctrine is an unintended consequence flowing from Congress, now possibly outdated assumption that U.S. citizens generally reside in the United States. Again, accordingly, I'm telling you folks, if the United States is located in Washington, D.C., then Washington, D.C. is where the living place is, and the United States, as we know it, is merely nothing but a record, and you cannot live or reside in the United States. Like I said, you cannot be born in the United States, and there is no evidence anywhere that you do either one. You will never find anywhere that says United States, United States. It's Washington, D.C., folks. Just like it's Waterloo, Iowa, it wouldn't be Iowa, Iowa. Okay? Accordingly, although the Third Circuit applied the stateless person doctrine as it now exists, it did so reluctantly and invited Congress to consider taking another look at whether it is still appropriate or applicable. So, applicability for the diversity of citizenship. The technical aspect of it isn't that you have dual citizenship, but the fact that the citizens come from two different places. That's the diversity. The diversity means that there's differences. And so when we think about the dual citizenship, being born in the United States and now residing in one of the states, that's the difference. That's the difference. So let's take a look at the next one, because what we're talking about is refugees, or similar, not actually refugees, but something similar, as sojourners, transients, people that are not actually domiciled, but actually move around. See, domicile is like a permanent place of residence. Your intent is to always go home to that point of origin. So we're talking about a situation like a refugee, and they have, who is a refugee? Definitions. Refugee is a person who has fled his or her own country and cannot return due to fear of prosecution and has been given refugee status. Refugee status is given to applicants by the United Nations or by a third party country, such as Australia. Migrants, asylum seekers, internally displaced persons. An internally displaced person is someone who is living inside the borders of their own country, but is unable to safely live in their own home or region. Why would it be unsafe to live in your own country or region here on the Americas? Well, it would be unsafe and detrimental if that corporate company known as United States, claiming a nationality, claims that you were born in the United States when that's not so. You were born in America. Okay? You weren't born in the United States. It's a record. You were born on American soil. That's what it's actually known as. United States is a record system. So, as we look at it, stateless persons. A stateless person is someone who does not have a nationality recognized by any country. Now, if you're born and conferred a nationality, then you cannot be stateless according to that. Yet, they turn around and claim that you're stateless because you're born in one place and now reside or domicile in another place. And therefore, though you were recognized as a nationality, now you're domiciled in a state. Remember what I said about the United States is nothing but a corporation, and now you're claiming that you're domiciled in the state, which is a corporation as well. So still, you have failed to make a proper and valid claim of any real nationality. If that's what you're going to do, this is not legal advice. I prefer to stick with the scripture that says, born a prophet unto the nations. Before I formed thee in the belly, I knew thee. Before thou was cast from the womb, I sanctified thee. And before I sanctified thee, I ordained thee as a prophet unto the nations. Not of the nation or in the nation, but unto the nation, meaning an outside source that goes unto the nation and profits to the people of that nation. I don't suggest Channel 3 is asking, what if your father was born of another country, does not allow the child to have dual citizenship? Or does that allow the child to have dual citizenship for both countries? Again, it's how you want to placate it. You can, when it comes to passports, you can get a passport uh, under different names. Stars, movie stars, music entertainers, all kinds of people do this all the time. They get more than one passport, one under two different names. It's about anonymity and about maintaining that anonymity yourself. When you become an age of majority and you change your name by renaming yourself. So let's take a look at the next one. UNHCR, Refugee Agency. UN Human Convention, Human Rights. What the hell? I'm having too many brain farts. I got to quit smoking. UNHCR, who we protect, stateless people, ending statelessness. See, they're trying to help everybody become a national. They need to end the statelessness. Okay, again, it depends upon your interpretation and comprehension of all this. But if the scripture is telling me that I was born a prophet unto the nations, and these people are trying to tell me I have to make some kind of national claim, then maybe they're the ones that are disillusioned. Just so you know, that's my point of view before we get in any further into this. This is not legal advice. This is not medical advice. This is not spiritual advice. This is just my comprehension and my interpretation of the words before us. 1954 convention relating to the status of stateless persons and the 1961 convention on the reduction of statelessness are the key international conventions addressing statelessness. They are complemented by international human rights treaties and provisions relevant to the right to a nationality. So if you have a right to a nationality, you have a right away from a nationality. If you have the right to stay, you have the right to leave. If you have the right to leave, you have the right to stay. They are all they all have their polar opposites. If you have a right to a nationality, you have a right to decline the nationality. 1954 convention is designed to ensure that stateless people enjoy a minimum set of human rights. Okay, the Ninth Amendment in the Constitution of the United States clarifies that there are rights that are not enumerated, and therefore that's placating that you cannot enumerate anybody's rights, whether you think they're stateless or not. Tired of these people that think they know what they're doing in this political arena and then spew this blasphemous bullshit that's inconsistent and proves that they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. If the Ninth Amendment clarifies that there are rights that may not be known and are not enumerated, then who the fuck do all these national leaders think they are going to the UN and placating that, well, you have to have a nationality? No, you don't. You don't. So let's discuss that first and foremost. The reason you would need a nationality is to know where you're going home to. Again, they want to bury you in the soil. After you die, they descend. No, we've already descended and we're on a life path to ascend. So by creating a nationality so they can bury you in the ground and put a headstone and ledger stone over there with your name in all caps, telling people where you came from. No, we didn't come from Earth. We live here. That's it. We are merely passing through. We are just like the angels. We ascended or descended, and we are meant to ascend. Yes. You have the right to change it anytime you want. That's what it's about. Your ability to act as your own self. So, 1961, well, let's finish this. It establishes the legal definition of a stateless person. The legal definition of a stateless person. Again, if we were born prophets unto the nations, then why do we need a legal definition of a stateless person? As someone who is not recognized as a national by any state under the operation of its laws. Again, if we are born as prophets unto the nations, then why is it everybody is insisting that we be recognized as a national? That goes against the very scriptures that were used as a foundation of the very laws that they're posing in this country. Simply put, this means that a stateless person is someone who does not have a nationality of any country. The 1954 convention also establishes minimum standards of treatment for stateless people in respect to a number of rights. These include, but are not limited to, the right to education. Remember, I said it's my right to express myself. It's your right to know. Everybody has a right to know, and everybody has a right to express what they know. So once I know it, I have a right to express it. If it's something that's pertinent to you, then I have a duty to express it. Employment and housing. Now, the employment is a little bit obfuscated because they claim employment to be something like down at McDonald's, but even that employment, you have to have some kind of state ID. So when we're talking about employment here, it's common law employment, the right to contract privately. Okay. Importantly, the 1954 convention also guarantees stateless people a right to identify or a right to identity, travel documents, and administrative assistance. Right to identity. Okay, that's the private credentials, travel documents. That's your diplomatic accord, your diplomatic treaties, your diplomatic um, amnesty. You are working in commission with the place that you were born. Why would anybody that in the place that you were born, particularly a fictitious corporate entity, claim that you're the enemy when they're the foreigners? Okay, you are not the foreigner, folks. The corporation is the foreigner, and that is why you are foreign to them. But they are the invading force, not you. Again, you were born on this land. They were created out of thin air. The administrative assistants and not an administrative oversight saying they are your authority. Just an administrative assistance. Okay, this is the difference between immigrants that come into this country and they get the administrative assistance and they're not considered subjects because they have a social security number. You see the difference, folks? That identification says you're part of the system and that you have to qualify that nationality. Okay. When you come from another country, it doesn't matter what country you come from, it doesn't matter what nationality you hold. You come in as an immigrant and you have a right of education, employment, housing, and administrative assistance, identity, and travel documents. They give all this stuff to everybody else, but the people that were born here. They hold that against you. They charge you for shit. They tell you you have to register your children for school. You have to register that motor vehicle. No, you don't. You must learn how to read to be able to rebut that shit. And I'm not telling you you have to read. I'm telling you the only way you can rebut it is by learning how to read. You don't have to. You can keep on being a bitch ass slave. There were 83 states party to the 1954 convention in November 2014, when teams at UNHCR launched a campaign to end statelessness in 10 years. That's 2025, folks. 2024. This is that new world order, the one world order. They want everybody to make a false claim. They want everybody to dismiss that they have a duty that was sanctified and ordained through God as a prophet unto the nations. They want everybody to dismiss that one thing, that somebody else knew them before they were formed in the belly. Because as far as the record shows, ain't nothing like that happened. Someday somebody just magically appeared out of a basket. And there they are. They're a foundling in a hospital. Don't know where they came from. Don't know mom and dad, nothing. There's a document that was signed by an informant. Yeah, see, it's all bullshit that we really need to start thinking about what's happening here. The next one, as it relates to those identity documents and everything, we're talking about that travel document. And it was discussed in 1951, like it says, and UN's had these travel documents set up since then. So let's go read. Most of the time, when you want to cross an international border, you need to present a passport. It says most of the time. What are the times that you don't? What are the times that you can do this and you don't have to show a passport? It's telling you that if you learn how to read in between the lines, folks, most of the time, when you want to cross an international border, you need to print a passport. And passports, as most people know, are issued by governments to its citizens. So if you're stateless, and then you get travel documents. Still travel documents, aren't they? Why do you need travel documents? I'm not saying that you need them, but some of these documents might be wise if you can clarify what they're for. And that is not to identify you so much as a national, but to be able to clarify that you're not a thief or a criminal that is escaping one country and running to another. That might be a viable reason. I don't know. I prefer to think that if somebody's just traveling along on their own, peaceful, that, gosh darn it, I think I have that same right. So why would I impose some kind of restriction upon that to somebody else? See, I don't know anything about that person as I see him traveling along unless I go up and ask him for identification. And it's only because of identification that I would find out if he was a criminal in another country. You see where we're going with this, folks? All of this stuff is so convoluted that it almost seems like it's meant to stop you in your tracks. But what happens to refugees unable to obtain a passport from the government of their country of origin? Refugees are persons fleeing persecution, conflict, or violence in their country of origin, such as 94 cases, repeatedly, time and time again, and therefore cannot reasonably approach the authorities of their countries of origin to obtain a passport, as this might put them at serious risk of harm. For a refugee, being in contact with the country he or she fled from might be life-threatening. And before we get any further, to obtain a passport, again, it's not to leave the country, yet that's what happens. You are prevented from leaving a country if you don't have a passport. It sounds like that country is holding you prisoner, doesn't it? I urge you to read up on visa. Visa is an invitation. If I have a friend in Germany and I want to go visit Germany, and that friend says, hey, I got a friend that's going to come over from America and visit. He's going to come over here. He's going to teach us about American society. And while he's here, we're gonna do some cultural exchanges by teaching him about our society. That's called freely given, what was given freely. This is what we're meant to do, people. And this commercial identification system is preventing that. And we instituted at the age of 5 years old by teaching our children the legal name and an address so they know how to get back home. For crying out fucking loud. For a refugee, being in contact with the country he or she fled from might be life threatening or put his or her family or relatives at risk. What do they do if you take off and go out of the country while being some kind of criminal or something, and they already have record of you being a criminal? There's generally some kind of second surety along the line. You know, maybe you put a house up um, for bail to get out of jail, and it happened to have been mom and dad's house or your brother's house or something like that, and then you fly off and take off. Now they're going to come after your family. That's how this system works, people. What don't you get? It's here to destroy your family. Okay. Or what if the person is stateless? In other words, a person who is not recognized as a citizen of any state, therefore has no state from which to request a passport. Refugees and stateless persons very often do not have access to the national passports that most of us take for granted. Okay. For these reasons, refugees and stateless persons rely on their host state. What is a host? A host is one that's there naturally. The state is not the host. The state cannot be a host. The state is a fiction. Get it through your thick skulls. The state that they are staying in. Again, it's a fiction. You cannot live in a fiction. For travel documents in 1951, Refugee Convention and the 1954 Statelessness Convention recognized this dilemma and gave refugees and stateless persons the right to a convention travel document named after the conventions that granted it this right in their state of lawful stay. Read that again. The 1951 Refugee Convention and the 1954 Statelessness Convention recognized this dilemma and gave refugees and stateless persons the right to a convention travel document in their state of lawful stay. So why is everybody getting those passports? See, you do not have to have a passport. Most of the time, that's what people get. But you can get a convention travel document. So I hope you guys understand what's going on here. There's some information that you can look up. I'll drop these links in the details section when I get done here. I want to check and make sure this other one isn't something else I want to put in here. Yeah. So anyway, that's what I've got for you today, folks. If you really think you're stateless, you don't know where you're from, you don't know where you're going. Jeremiah 1:5 says, before I formed thee in the belly, I knew thee. Before thou was cast from the womb, I sanctified thee. I ordained thee a prophet unto the nations. Psalms 121, verse 8. The Lord shall preserve thy going out and that coming in from this time forth and even forevermore. Why would you need anything else for travel documents? I urge you guys to think about how you've been duped through the language, the military education, military hospitals that claim your estate through that burial trust. See, that's what the claim is when you're first born. That enumeration at birth. That enumeration at birth is enumerating a burial trust, so that upon your travels, if you're traveling around and they find you dead somewhere and there's that passport, they get to run and send you back home so they can bury you. So they can bury you in the soil under a headstone and a ledger. And the entire time you're living, they're going to perform some ledgering of all of your activities. They're going to make an accounting of all of your activities and post it before you die. They're going to say that they're administrating your estate in a probate situation before you even die. See, they're not supposed to administrate shit until after somebody deceased, and there's no executor to administrate the will or execute the will. That's the only time. Yet here they are. They're placating that it's a probate estate while the man is alive, telling him that they're going to administrate him. No, it's administrative assistance. And that means you can't tell me that I'm required to do shit. You ain't my daddy. I hope people can learn to get used to that, because again, that's that problem at the local hospital. Mom's sitting there signing document as an informant.